podcast fra i-nyheter.
Yana Kotlyar, am I saying your name right? You're the charge, the affair on
Yes.
of what is left of the Israeli embassy
What do you mean
in Oslo.
left? A wonderful embassy is left.
Yeah. but a heartfelt welcome to you.
Thank you.
All listeners, you're probably well aware that I am one of the only pro-Israeli voices in the Norwegian public space. So for me, it's a great honor to have you, Yana. But I feel like I will start by asking you the questions that is looming in the Norwegian public mind. Like, for instance, why would national broadcasters say, according to Amnesty and Norwegian law professors, Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza? Why?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. We dive in right to interesting stuff. So the question why is not the question. The question is, why would you think such a thing? Because these days we are talking about 561 days after October 7. We're talking about 59 hostages still in Gaza, 24 only alive from what we know. So the question is not, why is Israel committed a genocide? The question is, there is no genocide. How do we continue on to find a better solution to all parties? This is the question. And my answer is very simple. If you put 50% of the pressure that you're supposedly putting on Israel, if you put that 50% on Hamas, the terror organization that kidnapped and murdered and raped people on October 7 and still has people in tunnels, in cages underneath Gaza and holding their own people hostages, if you put that pressure on them to release the hostages and to leave their weapons, we have something to talk about. Now, it's not just me, Ola. That's the most interesting part. When the Norwegian people here or the Norwegian media says something, I don't think they're listening to the graders. If you have people in the Arab world speaking clearly and saying, Hamas, if you really care about Palestinians, leave Gaza. If you have Abu Mazen himself, only this week, calling Hamas...
Explain who Abu Mazen is.
The president of the Palestinian Authority that you just gave a state to, by the way. Remember, it was just last week. I still wonder what's the national day is going to be. But when Abu Mazen, president of the Palestinian Authority, said this week, calling Hamas sons of dogs for not leaving Gaza and for making this war horrible in Gaza, how come we don't hear these voices in Norway? They're saying it amongst themselves. The Arab world is saying it.
So Abu Mazen
called Hamas sons of dogs.
Yeah.
Sons of dogs. And then Hamas, of course, did not like it. And they called him the father of the sons of dogs, like the biggest son of dogs. But come on, let's put the pressure where we should. Now, the war is horrible. Nobody can say it differently. The war is horrible. Let's finish it. Get our hostages out. Make sure that we will never have to go back to October 6th, because we won't. We will not allow ourselves to have that. The war now is in Gaza, but we've been fighting a war with 7 fronts for a year and a half now. Okay, we eliminated Hezbollah. You can thank us for that.
Which 7 fronts?
We're talking about Gaza. We're talking about the West Bank, when Hamas tried to, of course, get more people joining the fight, as if the Al-Aqsa floods fight. They didn't succeed fully, but there was enough terror that came out of the West Bank. We're talking about Hezbollah in Lebanon. We're talking about Syria. Well, through Syria. We're talking about Iran directly for the first time ever firing at Israel. We're talking about Iraq, Shia militias in Iraq. We're talking about the Houthis. The Houthis, they are not a basic proxy of Iran. They have their own goals, but they've been very, very strong. And everybody should be afraid of what is happening in Yemen these days. Everybody should be afraid of how strong Iran is, still has a hold on this entire area. So yes, the war in Gaza is horrible. We've been fighting for 7 fronts. Get the hostages out. Let's figure out how we go to next.
And then what Amnesty, for instance, was saying is that this is probably a genocide.
Yeah.
And why are they wrong, you think?
Because when you try to manipulate, first and foremost, the definition of genocide for it to qualify to what you want to believe, then you already have a problem. Second of all, a genocide. You see how quickly people use this word, even on October, like 2 weeks after the October 7th. What happened to the Jewish people on October 7th was the greatest massacre of Jewish people ever since the Holocaust. That was a genocide, if we're talking about anything, first and foremost. But the point of the genocide, the definition, the legal one, I don't know because I'm not a legal expert. I can't explain exactly how it is. I can say that the definition, first and foremost, shows the need for intent. And intent to eradicate a whole population. Did we start this war? Did we go to Gaza and say we want to kill everybody? No. Are we bringing in humanitarian aid? Have we been creating humanitarian corridors? Have we been letting people to evacuate to make sure that we do not harm as much as possible? We did. So how come they still want to call it genocide? And that's a problem because Amnesty International, it sounds so prestige. It sounds prestige, so you want to believe it. But when you have an international organization that is supposed to just take care of human rights, right, and to care about people, I say kudos. When they start paying people to participate in these demonstrations that are literally demonstrations against Israel, where's your integrity as a human rights organizations or whatever?
Are you saying that they have paid?
We know that.
Yeah.
We know that. We did. We had it also in the United States. It's a known fact. They paid people hourly wages to go to demonstrate because it's the cause. Because of the cause. And it was even here in Norway, right after Amnesty decided, of course, because they decided that we are committing genocide. They had an ad in VG. Remember, it was said, this is how a genocide looks. It was in Norsk, right? And then it was a picture. And it was like a sponsored ad. But for a normal person, for a regular person, when I see this, I believe it. I don't see the small thing that says this is an ad by an international organization. Why would an international organization pay money to put an ad saying this is a genocide? This is how a genocide looks like.
And then others would say that, okay, Hamas killed about
1,168 people.
And 1,168. And then they will say that, okay, we must, in proportion to the above 50,000 dead in Gaza.
Yeah.
And then the war is not proportionate.
Yeah, I love the word proportionate. First and foremost, do you know how many rockets, UAVs, anything was targeted at Israel in the last 1.5 years? In the war since October 7th?
Shall I make a terrible guess?
Please.
You said it was 561 days, was it?
Yeah.
And let's say that if they manage to shoot 2 rockets every day, then 1,100 rockets?
26,000 rockets from all fronts, rockets, UAVs, were targeted at Israel, were sent at Israel.
26,000 rockets.
1,000 rockets. And I know this because I had a very specific research about this a couple of weeks ago because I was preparing for a course that I was, for a lecture I was getting in one of the courses. And I was astonished myself. To be honest, I was like, really? Like, if we didn't have the Iron Dome, if we didn't have the David things, we'll be gone.
Iron Dome is the air defense capability, basically, of Israel.
Exactly. So you have 26,000. I'm talking about Yemen, Hezbollah, Iran, Gaza, everywhere, from the Shia militias in Iraq, 26,000. So first and foremost, if you want to talk about numbers, just imagine we didn't have the Iron Dome and then try to think about numbers. What would have happened? They always try to create this as if a balance, but there's no balance, first and foremost. The second thing is that talking about the people in Gaza, which I feel for every single day, you have, here in Norway, do you ever get the information how many combatants or terrorists actually are killed? Or is it only civilians, always? Is it only innocent Palestinians?
The number I have heard, I don't know where I have it from. Probably not the Norwegian media, because I'm not that big a fan of their Middle East coverage, to be honest. But I'm guessing that about 1/3 is combatants and 2/3 non-combatant.
So exactly that. It's approximately 1 to 2. We used to be 1 to 1, but it's now in this very intense, extremely hard landscape of Gaza, this is a very good result. And it's hard to say because these are lives. But when you look at the numbers, if you're talking about warfare and you're talking about the casualty numbers, when you talk about, you have a 1 to 9, usually. 9 civilians on every 1 combatant.
In typical urban combat.
Yeah, we're talking here about 2 to 1. Still horrible. Still sad. Still every day. The numbers, every person, every mother that loses a son, every daughter that loses a dad, every brother that loses a sister, it's all painful for them at that same moment. It doesn't matter. The numbers, it's for everybody outside.
And then some will say that you have right-wing politicians like Smotrich, who have been using very aggressive language towards the Palestinians, and sounds like he wants to treat them like vermin, and others have been saying that Netanyahu after 7th October spoke about this Amalek, that you have to go and destroy all of them, and that this language shows the genocidal or at least ethnic cleansing intent.
Well, they can say whatever they want. At this point, I think they do. I think they say whatever they want, because if they would have cared about the Palestinians, if they would care about the Palestinians, they would put so much pressure on Hamas to release the hostages, not now, a year and a half after, but right then. And right then, we had 251 hostages. We had to go into these elaborate plans so they could get this. And you care about your people. You're saying that this is a struggle for your independence. Okay, then do what is best for the people and get the hostages out and start as if battle for your independence. But it's not. It's not. They said it. Every major person in Hamas was very clear, saying, if we could, we would do October 7 again and again and again and again. So tell me, where's the intent? Tell me who is very specific in their intent of eradicating the people. Who is very specific in their intent to say, yes, we don't want you here. This is not about the two-state solution, which I know Norwegians believe. And I was a two-state solution person myself. I don't know where I am right now. I can't even start thinking about it. I'm being very honest. I can't start thinking about this point. I still have 59 people. I can't start to heal. Not me, not the society, not the people that were released, the hostages that were released and are sitting back home, and all they're calling to bring the people back.
And let us go back to the two-state solution in a while. But I just want to have one last question on the Gaza conflict, and that is that after the election of Donald Trump, he said, let's make Gaza into the Riviera of the Middle East, and the Palestinians must temporarily or constantly go to Egypt or Jordan or elsewhere. And there has also been media reports that Israel has been asking some countries, maybe you want to host the Palestinians. I don't know if they are verified, but isn't that a plan for ethnic cleansing of Gaza?
So the first thing you said was Donald Trump wanted. Donald Trump is not Israel, right? First and foremost, it's important. And I want to take this point to just say that we appreciated very much Biden's administration's stance with Israel ever since October 7th, first and foremost. And we appreciate very much also the collaboration and the good friendship we have with the new administration, with Trump's administration. Making Gaza a Riviera is something that they could have done in 2006 when we left Gaza, and they could have made it to a beautiful, the Singapore. It was supposed to be the Singapore of the Middle East. It's not a new plan. The fact that he said it once, he said, Donald Trump, that he wants to, but nothing really went ahead with that. It's something that he said, like, he wants to make a plan. Something has to change. We have to think outside the box, right, in order to make something. But at this point, there's no real plans on evacuating anybody outside of their borders. The only evacuation that is happening is inside between, to make sure that they're not harmed during this still warfare that we have to conduct, because we still have rockets. It was just like 2 weeks ago that a rocket fell a kilometer from my dad's house, from Gaza. So we still have depots of weapons that we have to take care of, not only in Gaza, also in Beirut.
And then typically, Israeli wars, there has been this plan to try to keep them short, like the 6-day war.
I think everybody wants short wars.
Yeah, but also because like you're a small country, you're limited in geographical size, so and you have limited resources. So a long war is more difficult for a small country than for a larger country. It's of course, depending on how large the war is, but like this would not have been the same strain on U.S. or resources as they are. And also, since you are a conscription army, you have hundreds of thousands of reservists leaving their regular jobs, and then back and forth to the front, so then I'm saying no. We're about 1.5. Now we have 1.5 years, 1.5 year of war, if you count from the September. And then I'm thinking, how long will this last? You think? And also I'm asking, is this strategy of the IDF, who has been like taking this part and then of Gaza and then leaving it again and then going back, has this strategy been fruitful or effective? Should you have gone in or held it? And are you minimizing IDF losses on a scale that is prolonging the war?
First and foremost, nobody wants wars. I want to believe. I know that we don't. The 6 days war, for example, was a miracle. It wasn't planned to be so short, but it was a miracle. It was, and that is wonderful. At the end of
that was the war in 1967, where Nasser wanted to throw you on the sea, and then you did a preemptive strike, which was very successful. But
thank you for letting them know. But what is happening right now, it's a very prolonged war. It's also very hard for the people in terms of to hold it together with the families. At the end, as you say, the reservists are coming and going, It's a struggle. Today, when we are, recording this podcast, this is the eve of the Memorial Day.
Yeah, this is Tuesday, the 29th of April, and I'm hoping to put it out on the 30th of April.
So today is the eve of Memorial Day. that we may commemorate all of the fallen soldiers throughout the wars and the victims of terror. So I just want to say, if we're already here, we have 25,420 fallen soldiers in all of our wars. This war was one of the hardest we've ever had. So the question, if the strategy to go in and to, first and foremost, we would like to minimize our casualties, and we would like to minimize any casualties for non-combatants, non-terrorists, right? Non-civilians. We try to, think about it, Ule, if Israel would have gone into Gaza and would have stayed there, even in one piece of it, in Khan Yunis, or in, what would the word say? That we're trying to take it. So this is like the extra pressure. We have to fight our enemies. We have to try to get our hostages out. We have to make sure that the Hamas does not regroup and stock itself like it did with missiles. And we still have to do it while the world is saying, no matter what you do, you're wrong. So of course we have to go in, clean, go out, because we can't stay there. And because we want the people to be able to come back to, the civilians to come back to their own normal life. The problem is that what happens that when we give them the time, for example, when we had this long ceasefire, the biggest beneficial was Hamas. And you could see it. They stocked up. It was the first time they paid full salaries to their people after the long ceasefire we had this year, the beginning of the year. I don't know about military strategies, if it's the right one or no. I hope and I trust the people holding on top, that they're doing the best they can do to first and foremost minimize any casualties to ourselves and to the civilians of Gaza. But I don't know when the war is end. Well, I know when the war will end, when Hamas will give the hostages back and leave Gaza.
And then I want to go back to what you said about this two-state solution, because in Norway, we mentioned the 6-day war. And when I speak about it, I would say that the typical Norwegian view is that Israel, before the 6-day war, is good and legit, and the labor and almost everybody in Norway supported it. And then Israel, after the 6-day war, with the conquering of Gaza and Westbredden, what's that called in English again?
West Bank?
The West Bank, sorry. And that and also East Jerusalem, that is bad. That is wrong. Like that's the Norwegian view. And then everybody would say that, okay, we support a safe Israel in the borders pre the 6-day war. So all you have to do is to leave the West Bank, leave East Jerusalem, leave Gaza, and then you will have peace.
Yeah. Well, Norway, I love you. I love you, Norway. You have such wonderful neighbors. Okay, you have Russia, but still. You have such wonderful neighbors. You have Sweden, you have Denmark, you have Finland. This is your neighborhood. Come to my neighborhood for a little while and then see how you feel. Because we left Gaza and still see where we are. For example, like it's. I know that we had a very good relationship back in the day. The social movement, and I would like to go back there in terms of like finding what unites us rather than what divides us at this point. But it's a bit. If I was to leave unilaterally, just to go out of Gaza, of the West Bank, or whatever, okay? What would be left from Israel? Are we going to live in peace and security? Or are we going to get more and more terror? This is the question. Because people are saying, especially in Norway, the settlements, this is the obstacle for peace. No, the obstacle for peace, and I'm saying it very clearly, no, the answer is no. The settlements are not the obstacle for peace. And the obstacle for peace is a terror organization that wants to annihilate us. That's one big obstacle for peace. They're not talking about a two-state solution. They want from the river to the sea, and all of you are shouting it here like it is a real thing. So it's kind of a problem for me when it's just like, yeah, two states. I would love a two-state solution to live in security and peace. You can't divide. It has to be together, security and peace. I wish for the Palestinians to have a good leadership that cares about them, that promotes their interests in a way that will benefit their futures. I wish that to everybody. I wish it to the people in Lebanon. I wish it to the people of Syria. Only when people have leaders that care for them, then we can start working on something. Because right now, the example of Gaza was simple. We left Gaza completely. We left them beautiful landscape. We left them, how do you call it, worm houses to grow greenhouses.
Greenhouses.
Greenhouses. Yeah. The best food was from that area. The best vegetable. Greenhouses.
One detail that I remember is that the Jews that had been buried in Gaza, that you dig them up.
We took them out.
And took them off and buried them again, because you knew probably that the graves would be
desecrated,
vandalized.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is the thing. For the Palestinian people, it was a great opportunity. You had a wonderful piece of land, first and foremost, to make it great, to live off the land, to advance yourself, to develop, to make yourself a future. But then Hamas took over. And I want to ask the people here from the media, when you talk about Hamas as a partner that we should just talk to, do you remember what Hamas did to their own counterparts of Fatah after the election in 2006? Do you remember? The coup, of course, there were democratic elections, but then, what happened then? Do you remember the photos of the people that they threw off roofs? Do you remember the photos of the Fatah people that they dragged their bodies with the cars? Do you remember that? They did to their own people the same thing they did to us on October 7. So, Hamas cannot be a part of the solution. And that is something that the Arab world knows. The Arab world says, but in the West, it's much quieter. And I don't understand why.
And in Norway, we have been saying that to make peace, you must speak with your enemies.
That's
that's why Norway has been
hosting Taliban,
Taliban, and speaking with Hamas, and probably is still speaking with Hamas.
Okay, you speak to them.
Great. I don't know, but
if you speak with them, that's fine. If you speak with them, then tell them. If you speak with them, then tell them what they should do in order to make a better future for the people that you care about. Because I believe that the people care about the Palestinians. But Hamas doesn't care about the Palestinians.
And then to this two-state solution, I feel I've been following this, and I feel that what happened was after the second Intifada, which was early 2000 when there was a wave of suicide and other terrorism in Israel, targeting the civilians
everywhere, buses, cafes, anything.
And then you decided to leave Gaza, and you left Gaza, and what you got were rockets. And then I felt like the two-state solution is politically dead in Israel. Today. Is it?
No. So I think this is one of the unique things about Israel, which I love about the Israeli people. If you look even at the Gaza envelope, the communities that were hit the hardest on October 7, the communities that literally were the best friends of the Palestinians from Gaza. The Palestinians from Gaza came to work there. They would help them go into healthcare in Israel. They are the most two-state solution people. Still, they believe that. A lot of them. a lot of them still believe in that. And that's amazing. That's amazing. The two-state solution can only live when both sides have a good leadership that cares for them, first and foremost, and not a Hamas, not a terror organization. That's most important. And the second thing is, when I did this research a couple of weeks ago, I came across a survey that was conducted at the middle of March. 51, I'm going to amaze you now, 51% of the people in Israel still believe in a two-state solution or a complete separation from the Palestinians. 51%. Do I need to say more?
Yeah, I didn't know that, to be honest.
Of course not. That's my job to
yeah. But then I'm thinking here. I'm just. We have had this war for 1.5 years, and as all wars, a lot of unexpected has happened. Especially, I remember when the war started, you had Hezbollah. Was what you were most frightened of, I think. You were shocked by the atrocity in Gaza, but militarily, the view was that Hezbollah was...
They're 10 times stronger than Hamas.
10 times. And now you have Hezbollah has been defeated. The whole...
You're welcome, Lebanon.
Yeah. and Assad, his regime has fallen, finally. And you have this... Al-Qaeda, former Al-Qaeda supporter, now turned...
he put on a suit, now he's a leader.
A reformer in Syria. And you still have Iran, and the Houthis are still firing.
Yeah.
And the war in Gaza is ongoing. Mm-hmm. And nobody really knows when. So my question then is, what will victory look like in Gaza for Israel? I remember a quote from Netanyahu's autobiography, and he always there he writes that Israel is never allowed to win. That has been the typical. That when in the 6-day wars, for instance, you were heading for Cairo, and then people say like, okay, no,
stop,
don't do that. And the same in the Yom Kippur war, and the same
when we were attacked. By the way, just so people remember.
And that's been the advice of everyone to Israel after 7th of October as well. That you should. You should do something, but then you should stop and then let Hamas rebuild, and everything can start again. So now I'm asking, like for the first time, I feel like you don't have this constraint.
Of course we do. We do it. We have it every day. Think about it. The ICJ, the ICC, the UN, every day.
But probably you have more. Maybe you have more support than you had before, from at least from an American administration. So my question is, what does victory look like in Gaza when it's kind of
the victory will not be. The victory is not in Gaza. The victory will be in Israel when we have our hostages back. Period. That's the only thing.
That's the important thing.
That's the most important thing. And I say it, and I know that I repeat myself, but it's not talked about enough here in Norway. And that's why I find it extremely important to talk about. First and foremost, we need to get our hostages back, the dead ones, the live ones. They've been through hell. They're going through hell every single day. And their life matters too.
And what about if I were Netanyahu, which I fortunately am not, both for Israel and but I'm thinking here that when I read him, I always feel like the great enemy for him and through his whole political career has been Iran. That it's an wannabe empire, a great state, it was at
Was
least
a beautiful cultural, advanced, absolutely.
Yeah, advanced country, and they could have been the pearl of should have been the pearl of the Middle East, and now instead you have this terrible, fanatical, fundamentalist government, which belief is that they have to annihilate Israel.
Yeah.
And then I'm saying, do you believe that Israel will try to destruct the nuclear weapons program of Iran? And what will
come
happen
on,
then?
Ole. How can you ask me this question?
I must ask, you
No,
know?
I'm just saying. You must ask, and then I have to figure out how to answer.
Yeah.
First and foremost, it's very important to understand that Iran is not only a destabilizing force in the region. It's a destabilizing force for the entire world. It's important. I think nobody wants a nuclear Iran. Let's be clear on that. Nobody would have liked a nuclear Iran. We are very in good coordination with the Americans, with the ongoing talks already that they have with Iran right now, which is extremely important. Don't think I hope we're not going to go into a military kind of strike there, because the knowledge is there. So even if we postpone it a little bit, the knowledge is still there. It's not going to go away. The question is, how can we find a better way of dealing with this horrible regime that human rights means nothing to him, that treats the women as if, that treats the LGBT community. I leave it to Norway. I leave it to Norway to figure out how to deal with Iran fighting for human rights.
And that's... Maybe you can share with us what is the view, not on Norway, but on the Norwegian politics in this after October 7th? What is the view among the foreign policy elite in Israel, if you have any opinion on this small, strange country?
We're two like-minded countries. We can do wonderful things together. I believed it back then when I decided to come and serve here, and I still believe it now. The problem is that at this point we are in the worst time of our bilateral relations. And we weren't in a great place to begin with, to be honest. When I arrived here on August 22nd, the only thing that we were talking to with Norwegians, most of it was about Palestinians. It's like, okay, so where are the bilateral relations? Where are the academic? Talking about academic. Where's the cultural exchange? Where's everything that builds a bilateral relationship? Where was that? So it didn't really exist back then also. And of course, it unfortunately does not really exist these days. And the people of Israel are very much disappointed with the Norwegian way of handling and treating Israel ever since October 7th. We expected a bit more of, first and foremost, for the Norwegian government to see us, to understand us a bit more, and to have the hard conversations with us, and to have the critical conversations with us. But that wasn't that. We weren't seen. We were automatically blamed. We were automatically accused. It was what? 10 days after the October 7th, I think it was Prime Minister that already said that he believes or he feels that Israel is breaking international law. He feels it. How can you feel such a thing, though? And I have so much respect to the political leadership here in Norway. I would wish that we could have a better time, but...
And is this... now we have a government from the left side, the Labour Party. How do you view it on the right side? You have had the Progress Party has been quite Israel-friendly, the most Israel-friendly voice. I don't know about the Christian Democrats, and then you have the conservatives, Høyre. What do you think about them? Is it, if the government of Norway changes, do you think that the policy will change a lot, or do you think this is pro-Palestinian view is almost the whole political spectrum?
First and foremost, it's very important to understand that we speak to everybody. We try to speak to everybody here. Of course, there's two parties in the parliament that are boycotting us already, are not speaking with us even before October 7. I'm talking about SV and Rot. They're literally not willing to...
They don't want to meet you and speak with you at all.
Yeah, but they haven't even in 2022. So it has nothing to do with October 7 or the war in Gaza. So we already have two parties that are not speaking to us. Everybody else we try to speak to because we believe in a dialogue. That's what you do. And as I said before, talking about the two-state solution, for example, I think everybody in the political landscape of Norway have the same, mostly, foreign policy in our issues, right? Two-state solution, that's the only way to go forward. Everybody. You're talking about left, you're talking about right. The only question was when and how. That was the only problem. That was the only difference that we saw. When I have a conversation with Høyre, for example, if I talk to FRP or if I talk to anybody, others of the parties, I just want to hear constructive. I just need a constructive conversation. What we are lacking, unfortunately, with the current government. They can be critical, but still, it's a conversation, it's a dialogue, it's to sit in the same room and to think together, what can we do better? And FRP were wonderful. We're wonderful supporters. They saw us also amazingly. And it's not a given. It's not a given in this very hard landscape.
But how does Norway, if you compare, I guess you speak with your colleagues in other countries, how does Norway compare with, let's say, Sweden, Denmark?
Oh, thank you for saying
Germany.
Sweden, because I have a wonderful example. First and foremost, nothing compares. Nothing compares. No, but nothing compares to Norway. Of course, you have Ireland. That's a different issue. But the constructivism, the one-sidedness that Norway has taken on this is very much different than anybody else. And you are in a very good neighborhood with the Nordic countries, right? Sweden, Denmark, for example. They can criticize us, but they can still work with us. They can still have a constructive conversation with us. And this is what is it all about. Now, I want to talk about Sweden, for example, because that's an extremely important one. UNRWA, I'm saying the
UNRWA, that was the special UN agency for Palestinian refugees.
Only for the Palestinian refugees. All the other refugees have another agency. So, UNRWA, it is a big case now these days in general. And in Norway, the stand is that this is the backbone of all humanitarian aid and there's nothing without UNRWA. Only UNRWA can help the Palestinians. And that's why you should continue funding them. This is the stand. But when you look to Sweden, not so far away, right across the border, they understood that that we already showcased that UNRWA was infiltrated by Hamas people, that UNRWA was violating their places of schools and everything with terror with terror activity there, with stockpiling weapons, with literally having small command and control units. It was not, I'm not saying that maybe they did on purpose, not all of them, but still. UNRWA employees were holding hostages in their houses. How cannot people understand that there's something fundamentally rotten with UNRWA? So what Sweden said, it said, of course we care about Palestinians. Of course we want for them to have a humanitarian assistance and to try to help them flourish. We will double our donations to all the other UN agencies that are assisting the Palestinians and not to UNRWA. They doubled the donation. So when you care about Palestinians, really care about Palestinians and not just going head to head, because Israel said that UNRWA bad, no, then UNRWA is good.
But then I need you to speculate a bit. I guess you hate that, but why is Norway different? You mentioned Ireland, which I believe in. I spoke with an Irishman about Ireland has also been very, very critical of Israel. And when it comes to Ireland, I believe that it's a bit easier for me to understand because they have this very strong post-colonial view that they were under the British and liberated themselves, and they have identified with this post-colonial narrative of the Palestinians, and you have IRA who was associated with them, and you also have this Catholic Church, which until quite recently was quite anti-Semitic. So I kind of see where it comes from, this antagonism of Ireland. But when it comes to Norway, my own country, I don't really understand it. Why is Norway more critical of Israel than Denmark and Sweden? Do you have any ideas? Or I guess the Norwegians would typically say that this is because we're better. We're always for the peace
really?
lovers.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be, this is a good thing. We are going in front. Once again, Norway is showing the road for humanitarianism and human rights. And the Swedes and the Danes, they will follow.
I think that even before October 7, this was a question that we kept asking ourselves. Why is the relationship different? Because also with Sweden, with Denmark, we are friends, we have good bilateral relations, they can be critical of us. But with Norway, even before October 7, it wasn't the case. There were no real bilateral relations. There were no meat on the bones. There was nothing real to hold on to. There was only talking about Palestinians. And then what's bilateral about that? So I think we came here, also former ambassador Avviser and myself, trying to figure out why. And we asked everybody, tell us what changed. So you mentioned the 6-day war right now, which is actually a new timeline for me, because we were thinking about UNIFIL, or there's all kinds of different timelines of why the attitude changed. But I think this is a question for your foreign ministry to understand, to tell us a bit more about why they decide to take such a stance in the hardest times for the Israeli people, and what do they think it's really gaining? How is it really bettering anybody or contributing to a long-lasting peace?
Da vi i Nyheter og podcasten Ness i gang med et spennende prosjekt. Vi lover å gjøre deg litt klokere. Det ikke alle medius som kan si det samme. For at vi skal lykkes med det, så trenger vi at du roser oss, deler oss, skryter av oss. Aller helst at du også sender litt penger til 763291, Vips-nummeret. Og aller helst så vil vi at du tegner et abonnement, og nå kan du få et helårsabonnement, 25% rabatt, hvis du bruker rabattkoden NESS25. Så del oss, støtt oss, abonner på oss, hvis du liker oss. Takk. One of the things that made me interested in this was after 7th of October. I've always felt like this part, I like controversial conflicts, but this I felt like this is too heated. I'm a Norwegian in Norway. I'm not gonna get too involved in the Middle East conflict. But when I raised my voice, one of the things that struck me was the level of anxiety and fright among Norwegian Jews, and that's still one thing I carry with me, that I know that Jews in Norway are deeply afraid, and you just have to 1 kilometer away from this studio and you will have a kindergarten with police watch. The only kindergarten in Norway with police watch. And we have a city here where when Jews meet to celebrate, they must meet on secret addresses and notify the police. And I feel like this is so tremendously provocative for me, that we wouldn't allow it for any other group in Norway. We wouldn't allow that a Buddhist minority in Norway would need police protection of their kindergarten.
Yeah.
Then we would say that we have to really find the people who makes this threat, and they are the problem. And put them behind prison walls, because this we cannot allow. So maybe you can tell me about the Jewish community and the relation here, and what you also feed that the Jewish community of Norway, how they relate, for instance, to the Jewish community in Denmark or in Sweden or in other comparable countries.
Well, I don't want to speak for the Jewish community, because that's one of the problems when we create this as if automatic Jewish Israeli, which is not. The Jewish population of Norway are Norwegian citizens, first and foremost. And the way I see it, not speaking for them, the way I see it as a person who sees this beautiful society and it can be better and better, I see a problem right now that you are not taking care of your neighbors. And there are a lot of people who do. There's a big majority who sees the hardships of the Jewish minority and tries to hold them or tries to hug them. But at the end of the day, what happens right now is the amount of hate and amount of anti-Semitism and the amount of conspiracies that are being targeted towards your very, very small minority, your Jewish minority, is alarming for the Norwegian society. For the Norwegian society, that is a big problem, because these people are your neighbors, are your kindergarten teachers, are your co-workers. Why do they feel afraid? Why can't they go around with a Magen David? Why people can go with the cross, but they can go with their Magen David and one of the most beautiful things that I've seen here in Norway is people who are not Jewish, non-Jewish people, walk around with the Star of David to show their support to their Jewish minority friends. That's beautiful. We need more of that. We need more of the understanding that you, as a Norwegian society, needs to care for your most vulnerable ones. And from what I see, and we saw it, we see them, we saw, there was this, I think it was Vartland in January. They had a very big piece about Jewish kids in schools and how they felt and how they were treated. That's a masterpiece for everybody to hear, to read here in Norway.
Please tell it for those who didn't read it. It's
Parts of it we're talking about. It was an 8-year girl. I don't remember the exact age, so forgive me. But please, everybody, check after and read that. She was saying that her friends don't want to play with her anymore, or like if she wants to sit somewhere, and then she sat somewhere, and then one of their friends will come and sit. They will clean the chair after her. So
Jewish children in Norway.
So this is not me.
Yeah,
this is not Israel. This has had nothing to do with anything in our small Middle East. This is here in Norway. This is what the Norwegian society is allowing. That's the problem. So I urge everybody to read that piece. I was amazed to hear that. And you could hear people from the Jewish community are rising and talking. They're saying how they feel.
Oh, has there been has anyone left Norway for Israel after October 7th? Do you have any statistics on that?
I don't have statistics on that. No. But I hope that Norwegian citizens who love their country, which they do, can live safely in their country. Like it's not even supposed... Would you imagine to say to anybody else other than a Jewish person, do you feel like... Is there a statistic on how many people left Norway because of anything? Would you ask that question? Would you ask, and I'm saying, would you ask anybody from the Arab population, would They leave.
And I'm also, we had a brief talk before we started this podcast, and I'm thinking of one of the things you said that I agreed with very much, and that was that now we see this age-old hate, anti-Semitism. I used to say that everybody agrees that we have see anti-Semitism in Norway, but nobody has met an anti-Semite except maybe some crazy guy on X, else there is no anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
How do you define anti-Semitism if you should,
Wow, definition of an anti-Semitism. I think it's the second most interesting question here for the Norwegian media, for example. First question is, how come this is how come is it anti-Semitism and not anti-Zionism, for example? And now you're asking what is anti-Semitism? At the end of the day, anti-Semitism is believing that the Jewish people are capable of bad things. First and foremost, it's much easier to believe that a Jewish person is. If you believe somewhere deep inside, it's easier for you to believe that a Jewish person can do something bad. Maybe try to think about how you're saying things, or try to think about how you're reacting. Because anti-Semitism can manifest itself in so many different ways, but at the same time, it's not automatically anti-Israel. And that's an important point for me to make. We're not hiding behind anti-Semitism. Sometimes it correlates, but these are mostly two different things. But having said that, when you're saying no Zionists in our streets here in Norway, or when you're saying no Zionists in our streets, that's a bit anti-Semitic. Because, and I will explain, what is Zionism? Let's be clear. Zionism is not this theory you made for yourselves that this is a colonial race trying to be better than everybody. No, Zionism is the right for the Jewish people to return to their homeland, to have a safe space in their homeland of Israel. I didn't say in which borders even, but to have their own safe space, right? This is what Zionism is. So when you say no Zionists in our street, you mean every person that believes that the Jewish people have the right for self-determination in the land of Israel? Then, you have a problem.
What?
What is anti-Semitism for you?
I like this. I think it's Shafransky who had this 3Ds definition that one of them is demonization. If you demonize Israel, or if you
because you believe this is the demonization. You believe it's easier to believe that they will do bad things.
Yeah, and then you have these double standards. If you hold Israel to another standard than other countries, and then the third was delegitimization. That if you say that this is not. That would be this anti-Zionism view that you have no Israel. And I think that when I look at Norway today, I feel like this demonization is working when we see how we use this word genocide.
So, like you order coffee.
Like it's. Then one could use more precise words like war and terrible and so on, but this need to use genocide. And then when I look at the double standards, I think that's obvious. You can just count the number of UN resolutions regarding Israel compared with other countries, and you would see that there's a double standard here. And then you have this delegitimization, which I see there was this Norwegian professor who wrote in Aftenposten quite recently, and then he questionized the whole existence of Israel. Was this state a good idea? And I can't imagine, even after Ukraine, I can't imagine any Norwegian academic writing and saying, is Russia a good idea? That's
I wouldn't say Russia. No, I would say every country. I remember saying that, asking it. People's like, we are at this point, and I'm saying it very clearly. We are at this point that it's not about the people in Gaza. It's not about a two-state solution. It's literally saying, Israel, we question your right to exist. Wait, first of all, with all due respect, who are you to question that? Second of all, have you ever thought of waking up in the morning and saying, I'm not sure France should exist? What's the difference? How is it possible for anybody to wake up in the morning and say, I don't think that a democratic country in the West should exist? I will do something about that.
And for a country like Norway, who became independent in 1905, it's strange that we want to start this discussion. But I want to. Now we're getting closer to the end here, but I want you maybe to ask me some questions or view it to Norway, because one of the things that has made me interested in this debate is not because of Israel and not even because of the Jewish people, because I think that you are taking care of yourself. And I think that, but what distresses me is what is happening in Norway. And also when I look at history, I know that the Jews left all that could, left Hungary or Austria or Germany, and a lot left Poland as well. Not obviously not enough, but when the Jews left, the hate remained.
Yeah.
Even if, let's say, that Hitler had been he hadn't invaded Russia in 1941, and he would have some kind of peace agreement with Great Britain, and he would have been able to finalize the Endlösung and the destruction of Jewish Europe, not killing 6 million, but killing 10 million. Everybody understands that the hatred of the Nazis would have continued. He would have gone for killing even more gays, killing Slavs, killing everybody who's disabled. And this hatred, this anti-Semitic hatred, I feel is growing in Norway, and I'm afraid that it will start consuming Norway. And I know that most Norwegians will say that, no, you are crazy, Ole. You're thinking that this is only Israel. But then I feel that I'm not sure.
No, I'm with you all on this one. And I've been saying it also for a while. You have a beautiful society. You have all the, how do you call it, the basic conditions to be the best you can be. But you do have a problem at this point of hate, of allowing hate. And once this hate is allowed, which is as if right now towards me, but hate is like cancer. It just grows and it metastasizes. And at the end of the day, it's a problem for the Norwegian people. And I want for the Norwegian people to think about how would they like their lives to look like in 10, 20 years, and to see if the hate or the way that you're allowing this speech, is that the right way for you? Is it getting you to a better place as a Norwegian society that you can be? Because you have, in the past, you've been and you're the historian, you tell me, but in the past you were a very homogenic society, and now you're already a bit more heterogenic. The question is, what values does Norway want to continue and to uphold that will make the best Norwegian society that can be? is allowing hate part of these values? This is my question for you. What is, and I know it's like, it's not right, left terms of values, basic values of society, a democratic society, to exist, to flourish, to love one another, to allow one another to speak, because right now, not only about Israel, there is, and in Norway, which is a very small country in terms of the population, 5.5 million, right? There is already a lack of communication between some parts. And that's dangerous for any society, but especially such a small one. So how do you fix it?
No, I noticed when I've been listening a lot to English-speaking Israeli podcasts after 7th of October, and whenever I listen, avviser, for instance, is my favorite of Israeli journalists. I've tried to, if you know him, please tell him to answer one of my emails, because I've been...
You will come to Norway.
Oh.
I will get you in contact.
Yeah, great.
Hopefully.
I'm a huge fan of him. I've been stealing his lines like crazy.
That's I heard a rumor. So
yeah, he is. But when I listen to this Israeli podcast, I sense this kind of, okay, Europe, you got rid of almost all your Jews. You have, I guess, France is the largest Jewish community in Western Europe. But we all know what's happening in France. It doesn't look too beautiful. I myself, I said that I had no Norwegian Jewish friends, but I had previously. I knew some British Jews in the trading community there. And I also have worked with Jewish businessmen. And I feel like there is this sense that maybe whole of Europe is leaving us, or we must leave them, or at least keep the lines to Israel close. And even in... And how do you view Europe? Because of course you have Norway is an extreme example, but you have this growing Muslim minority in at least Western Europe and Northern Europe, which I think is and I hate to speak about it, because I don't want to use. We have so much Norwegian anti-Semitism that I don't like to criticize the Muslims of Norway for anti-Semitism. It's Norwegian Christian Norwegians like myself have our own issues here, and it was Western Europe that came up with the idea of Holocaust. So I don't want to use this to blame the Muslim, but I think it's influencing, and maybe even it is as if we have been speaking about this. How do we find a new value binding us together, Muslims and all Europeans and secular Europeans? And at sometimes I feel like this new value holding us together shall be anti-Semitism.
Oh,
no! Like that you almost see it when you... I've been seeing this pro-Palestinian rally in Kristiansand in southern Norway. They walk every Saturday, I think.
Let's not call it pro-Palestinians, because this is not about Palestine. Let's call it pro-Hamas. Very easy.
Pro-Hamas, yeah. But it's funny to see the demonstration, because in the front they put the kids, typical immigrant kids, and then you have immigrant men, and then you have immigrant women, and then at the end you have, when I watch it, you have these radical Norwegians, Norwegians or ethnic Norwegians, whatever you call it. So you have, what is, do you have this feeling that Europe is a bit lost?
I can't speak about Europe. I have enough on my plate here in Norway, and I also have to take care of Iceland. So enough on my plate here. I can't speak about Europe in that regard. But I think at the end of the day, religion can be a beautiful thing. And Christianity and Buddhism and Islam and Judaism and Hindu, everything. It can be beautiful as long as it's not extreme. And as long as we learn how to find, again, the things that unites us in our faith, the things that unites us and elevates us to better places in our society throughout faith. The question is, what do you import? What values or what, let's say, traits of society do you import sometimes? That's the real question. It's not about I believe, it's not about the specific, only the religion itself. It's what you make out of it. Because you can make religion beautiful, or you can decide to take it to the extreme and look at and make it ugly and make it destructive instead of peace-seeking, instead of loving the other. It's all a question of, because you can see it even in Christianity. Let's be honest. Look at the Christianity. Look at the Christianity even here in Norway. You can look at the church and you can look at anything else. These are very different.
I have I've quoted it before, but one of my favorite authors is Isaac Singer, the great Polish, Jewish, Yiddish writer who emigrated to the US. And in one of his novels, he speaks with this Christian guy, and he says then to Singer's character, he says, you must have heard about the Christian love, or love of kind, or nestekjærlighet, as we would say in Norway. And then the character of Singer, he replies, yes, Christian love. We know about Christian love. It's very dry and humorous, because this is, of course, just written after the Holocaust. So yes, we and that's I'm getting a bit, because that's what fascinates me with Israel and the Jews. Of course, there's this tiny, or maybe 15 million Jews in the world, something like that. 15,
I
20.
actually don't know the number. I know, in Israel we're 10 million in population. That means around 7 million. So in general, that can be a good.
And then you have like 22%, I think, was the last Wikipedia statistic. So I haven't double checked it, of Nobel Prizes.
We're good at that.
Where to Jews, and that's this. And then I'm just reading the Bible again, together with Vebjørn Selbekk. We're going to read the Bible and the Quran, and when I read the Bible,
the question: are you going to do it in a church? Sorry, I had to after the club.
And then when I'm reading the Bible, it's funny, because then I'm reading. This is the first time I'm reading the Bible after I got so interested in this topic. And then it becomes clear to me that for me as a Christian, this is some kind of holy scripture that's always been, and now I'm speaking about what we call the Old Testament, because we have learned, like, okay, the Old Testament gets its meaning, really understand, through the New Testament. That's kind of the prism to view it. But maybe since I've been secular so long time, this I'm reading for the first time the Old Testament as a scripture in itself.
Yeah.
And to me it is funny, because when I think maybe I'm now able to read it a bit like a Jew, in that I feel that I understand for a Jew this must be almost like some kind of family chronicle. If you understand me, that
absolutely.
This is Abraham,
it's the fundament,
and he got his son Isaac, and he got his son Jacob, who was this really sneaky guy who fooled his twin brother. And he got 12 sons, which became the tribes of Israel. And that's and this is the first time I'm reading it like this. Maybe since I've been reading so many Jewish writers, and then you have this capacity that you have this Jew, Jesus, or a Palestinian, as the Norwegian church would call him.
He was from Palestine.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And which is I think that's if anybody from the Norwegian church listens to this, I would say that by using that term, I think you are entering anti-Semitic tropes into the church.
It's because you're taking away such a basic connection to the land.
Yeah, that's
also through Jesus. Yes, Jesus was born in Judea. It's very very simple.
It's very provocative for me.
Yeah.
But then you also have that you create kind of, and also when I read the Quran, I'm also reading, which is like this kind of. Again, you have, according to some, they say that Muhammad wanted to be recognized as a prophet by the Jews.
By the Jewish people, yeah.
Yeah, and they laughed at him. Come on, guys, we had prophets before and you're not one of them.
And we believe in one God.
Yeah, we believe in one God. So we kind of, okay, then I'm going to start my own religion if you want to recognize me as part of yours. And that's kind of the Jewish tragedy, that everybody is kind of copying it, and not, but not really, and then you just we want to continue to be Jews.
But I'll explain. That's interesting. Then I want to remind me if I forget to say something about the Christian community here.
Yeah.
But Christian love. First of all, this is a very interesting point you're making, because even today, if you would come to a Jewish person and tell him, I want to become Jewish, the first thing that will tell you is like, why? This is the first question. Because becoming Jewish is so hard. We're not a religion, like Judaism is not a religion of missionary. It's not a religion of it's like the complete opposite. Don't do it. It's extremely hard. We have so many rules. We have so much. Look at what happened in the past. We would say first, don't do it. And then if you do it, okay, we'll walk you through it absolutely with love and everything. But it is extremely hard to be Jewish. It's not easy to be Jewish. And also because Judaism is like Christianity, like any other monotheistic religion, it's very broad. And I'm being very clear, for some people in Israel, for example, me, even though I was born to a Jewish family and my parents had their marriage was in a ketubah, written in Yiddish, like everything that Jewish can be. For some, maybe extreme, and this is the main point. Extreme people, I'm not Jewish enough because I didn't say that I was Jewish enough, or because I wear short sleeves, or because I don't wear a skirt. So we have to understand that this is something that happens everywhere, but it's a very interesting analysis of but this is exactly it. We're saying about, for your own sake, just don't go into it. We have so much. It's like the Jewish joke, and I can make it because I'm Jewish, right? It's like the Jewish joke. You have a Jew person on an island, and he was stuck on an island. It's like, what are we going to do? Okay, so he builds a synagogue he wants to go to, and then he builds another synagogue, so he can say, I will never step foot in that synagogue. That's the but this is also the basic thing of the Bible and the Judaism, is to always ask questions, is to never take anything for granted. And that's like the core of the Bible, and then everything
I
after.
think one thing we did wrong in Christianity is that we should have we stole the Old Testament or we copied it, but we should have copied the Talmud as well. That's the asking questions part. Then I think that we would have
the asking questions.
That would have saved us 1,400 years of
Wait,
misery.
so let's talk for a second about the Christianity, because it's very important. I have this platform, and it is important for me to say thank you, because there is so much love that we receive here in Norway. It's not bleak. We know that there's I'm not going to say a huge majority, but there is a majority of people who understand us, who can even have hard conversation with us, but that care about us. And I want to take this opportunity, if anybody is listening, to tell them thank you. Without this love that we receive in emails, in comments, face-to-face, in meetings, it would have been very hard for me to be here. And I've been here for 2.5 years, and I have been chargé d'affaires for almost a year now. And I want to just thank each and every one that hugged me virtually or physically. I couldn't have been doing it without them. So it was very important for me to say this here also.
And then I want to end with one of my favorite questions, and that is that one of the great gifts of my life was that I've always been a very eager reader, force-fed books by my mother. And then at some point, I understood that there was not only, she was a Norwegian teacher, so she made me read all the great Norwegian authors. Nice. And then I discovered that, okay, there's lots of great Swedish writers and French and German. And then one day I decided, I'm going to read a lot of Jewish writers. And that's kind of, then I stuck there with a lot of my favorites, to mention two, Isak Singer and Saul Bellow and Philip Roth.
Philip Roth, yeah, exactly. I was waiting to hear.
Yeah, and then also these, but maybe the greatest writer of them all for me is Samuel Agnon, the great Hebrew writer, and also his, I would say, is very much inspired with him, Amos Oz, which write about growing up close to Agnon in his A Tale of Love and Darkness.
Yes.
Which is a wonderful book. Maybe you do you have any? If you should recommend some Israeli writers, non-fiction or fiction, which should we read?
First and foremost, in the topic, for example, of Israel Palestine, I'm sure you read Einat Wilf.
No.
Do you? You even have it in I think in Norwegian. I'll see. Yeah. So she is it's a wonderful book. She was a labor parliamentarian, and even being a labor parliamentarian.
Say the name again.
Einat Wilf. She was actually here in Norway, I think once or maybe even twice. So she writes very, very important. And she's talking about, okay, I'm a labor woman. I want a two-state solution, right? But these are the problems. And she's been very... So first of all, Einat Wilf for this. Okay. And then we talked about Amos Oz. We talked about Shai Agnon. And one of the other ones that I would like to put there is David Grossman.
Yeah.
David Grossman. And you know why I remember it? Because I was in Israel just a couple of weeks ago, and it can only happen in Israel. I land, and I'm waiting for my luggage, and then I see David Grossman there. And I know him because I worked with him in Moscow, and it's 4:00 in the morning, and it's very Israeli of me. And it's like, hi, David, how are you? And he was like, oh, how are you? And this was my coming back to Israel. So David Grossman, that's because it was, I just met him, and it was amazing. But also, actually, in a very different, she writes comics books, like graphic novels. Oh. Her name is Ruto Modan, and these are very nice graphic novels. They have like a twist, and they're strong. And one was about the Holocaust. It's called Haneches. I'm pretty sure they have it in English. They don't have it in Norwegian. But it's a graphic novel about a grandma and her granddaughter going to look at where she lived before the Holocaust. Because she survived, and it's a very beautiful novel. And then another one she made that may also work about West Bank, everything, Israel. It's a funny graphic novel. What is it called? It's called Tunnels. So it's a very different tunnels. It's before, of course, October 7. But it talks about trying to find Luchot HaBrit, trying to find the 10 Commandments. Mm. Yeah. So I'll see if they have that in English. If I'll find it, I will absolutely let you read it.
Great. But yeah.
But on this note, I want to finish first and foremost thanking you for having me here. Ola, really, it was very important for me, as I believe in a couple of months, but to keep the dialogue open and to have the conversations as much as possible with anybody. So thank you for having me. And as I said today, we still have 59 hostages in Gaza. Today we will start commemorating our fallen soldiers throughout the wars of 70 years of regaining our independence in Israel. and commemorating the memory of all of the terror victims. And on this note, I would like to give you a Bring Them Home, which says also in Hebrew, our heart is hostage in Gaza. This is for you.
That's an honor, Yana. Thank you very much. It's an honor. It's an honor to have you, Yana. And I hope that this is at the bottom of our Norwegian-Israeli relations. And I say that not for Israel, but as a Norwegian for Norway. I think else we will have big troubles ahead. So thank you for coming, Yana.
Thank you, and we will only look forward.
Hvis du liker denne podcasten, så kan du gi støtte til i-nyheter enten ved en Vipps-overføring eller til bankkonto. Du ser nummeret våre på skjermen nå. Ikke glem å abonnere på YouTube-kanalen vår og følge oss på X, Facebook og andre sosiale medier.